Okay, good morning. Today we're starting Siman Samech Aleph, that's Matnos Kehuna. So we officially concluded Trefus. I'm just going to go back to one quick idea. So we learned about a drusa, if an animal is clawed. So we learned about that. Just to point out that the issue of drusa is we're afraid, when we say it becomes a treifa, it's because it's accepted according to Chazal that we're going to end up with a hole in one of the vital organs where it makes it a treifa. It's interesting to note, it's in contrast to the halacha of mesukenet, which was in Hilchos Shchita, perhaps Yud Zayin or whatever. So there, anyways, from these two simanim, you see that if an animal just gets a poison or a disease, it gets a machalat sick. And the halacha basically is as follows, that even if you know it's going to die within 12 months, it does not make it a treifa. A treifa is only what Chazal established. That's famous, the Rambam, the Rashba, some others, and everyone agrees that it's only what Chazal Rekaveya, nothing more and nothing less. And even if we think times have changed and the Nishtana Hateva on some degree, it doesn't make a difference in the halacha. There's no really no machlokas on the matter. And just to explain a little bit, what's the difference of a machla? So number one, it could just be it's a halacha l'moshe misinai. It's not clear, but it could be just a halacha l'moshe misinai that only if it's in a pagam in an etzem organ itself, in the animal intrinsically that has a hole that's not going to let it live, that's what makes it a treifa. The fact that it won't live 12 months from an external illness, according to Halacha Moshe Misinai, does not turn it into a treifa. That's one way to understand. Another way to understand is because since a machla is more external to the animal, there's always a chance it can recover. So, especially with medicine. So, it doesn't have this intrinsic, it's going to die within 12 months. There's always a way out. With people, it's always, you never give up hope, we can always daven. The mazel, the decree can always change. A little bit different with the behema, but Lamaisa comes out, there's a similarity on that aspect. Also, it could be that it was, when it comes to a machla, it's too difficult for Chazal. I don't know if you like this or not, but it's also difficult for Chazal to be koveya what is now going to be a machla that turns it into a treifa versus not, because Chazal had to give us klalim that work for future generations as a klal. It's always this way, it's always that way. You can see a hole, you cannot see a hole. But to start, which virus and which bacteria under which circumstances, it becomes very difficult. Okay, and one last thing that's interesting. We've learned through all of Hilchos Trefus. So what are Gidin? When we see in the Shulchan Aruch and the Gemara Mishnah Gidin, what are Gidin? What is that? So we had this also, we mentioned it by simpon. A simpon is a pipe. It could be a windpipe, it could be a blood vessel. So to when Chazal say Gidim, anywhere in Chazal when you see Gidim, you don't know what it is unless you look at the context of what's going on. Gidim could be blood vessels, it could be nerves, it could be tendons, and it could be ligaments, just depending on which scenario you're looking at.
It could be blood vessels also.
Sure, it could be any one of those. Okay, now let's get to Matnos Kahuna. We're starting Siman Samech Aleph. Matnos Zeroa L'chaim V'Keva L'Kohen. So again, we're going to see this inside, but just to point this out, whenever an animal is shechted, so that an animal could be chulin or it could be kochim. Right nowadays, it's always chulin. Whenever it's chulin, this is a Beferish Mishnah, but the Shulchan Aruch is going to touch upon it. Whenever it's chulin, it's zeroa l'chaim v'keva. Whenever it's korbanos, it's the shok and the chazeh. It's never both. If it's chulin, it's always the jaw, or the fourth stomach, and the arm. And if it's right, one of we're going to see it's the right front leg. That's always what it is by chulin, and by kochim, it's always the shok. What's the shok? Which one of the three leg bones? So the top one is the Yoreh or Kolit, so it's not the Shok. It's the middle bone. That's which I'm not saying it applies la halacha, but it corresponds to the anatomy of a person. The second bone would be our bottom bottom half of our leg, because by an animal, their third bone is anatomically more like our foot, and their feet is more like our toes. But because again, this doesn't necessarily have any bearing on halacha for tznius, but that's a whole separate machokas. So Lamaisa said has no bearing, but as far as the limud, but anyway, so the shok is the second bone, and that's the bone that goes for the korban. Well, it's actually a machokas if that includes the top two legs or just the middle leg, but that's for hilchos korbanos. Right. The shok technically is the middle bone, but for the halacha Gidin Kohanim, it could be, it's a machlokas if it's the top two bones or just the middle bone. That's from the back. That's the back leg. That's the back leg. Shok is only in the back leg. So, but that's for korbanos. That's not. You're not going to see that here.
One of the back on the
I think it's only the right one, but I think it's only the right one. And the breast means the top one or two ribs of the top. Again, that's also machlokas, but the top one or two ribs. That's the chazeh. Okay, so let's get to chulin. Halacha aleph. Sifal. Chayav litein lekohen. There's a mitzvah, a chiyuv, to give it to a kohen. And what is this? The hazaroa ve'alachayim ve'akeva. So it's the forearm, one of the four legs, the lachayim, what's the jaw, right? The entire jaw, the mandible. Ve'akeva is the fourth stomach. Shel shor v'shel seh. So for a behema tahara, but not for a chaya. Chaya you don't. So, right, a sheep that belongs to behema, it's a behema, but if it be, whatever, chaya, then you wouldn't. Bet, let's go to bet. Hazaroa davka shel yamin. Now, when the Torah says zeroa, it's a limud, a drasha from pasuk from the letter hey, but it definitely only means the right front leg. V'hu mi perek. This is interesting. Mi perek arkuva nimkeret imashuk. So this is the imarosh. Thank you. Nimkeret imarosh. Expression. That's all it means. Just an expression. That's all it is. It means the bottom joint. Which joint? The joint that goes from the well, in our body would be the top. Would be our wrist. That's easy to understand. But it's since the animal has, it looks like it has three bones, and right. So the bottom bone is corresponding to our hand. So it will be our wrist. So it's that bone. If you look at a picture, it's the joint. If you have three bones, so you get the first bone. At the end of the first bone is one joint. Then you get the next joint. So that's where it starts. Im harosh. That whole, it was just customary that whole bottom bone, which wasn't much there, didn't have much value, but that whole bottom little bone, or corresponding to our hand, would always be sold, or commonly sold, with the head. When you sell the head, it comes with that. It gets thrown in. So it's just an expression for what for meaning that part of the body. Okay, so let's keep reading. Ad kaf hayad. What's the palm of the hand? It's not the palm of your hand. When we talk about kaf, we normally think of the palm of our hands, right? But that's not what it means over here. This means the shoulder bone or shoulder blade, because it's a big flat bone. So that's what it's called. Chazal called it kaf hayad because it resembles your hand. Shakorin ishpalda, we can just call that scapula for our purposes. Vehem shnei prakim. So again, what is the zroa? It's the top two bones, basically the entire arm, pretty much, except the hand, right? corresponding to the human body. Except for that last third bone, which is not much, pretty much, right? All the meat is on the top two bones. The bone that holds the hoof, that's not included. That little bone at the end, that third one. But the two main bones, which have most of the meat, the entire two main bones is what goes to the Kohen. Okay. Only the right one. The foreleg, the front leg. The right foreleg. Okay. It's a gift to him. You have to give it to him. It's not optional. We'll see it's also later on, but the poskim call it's gezel. It's gezel hashevet. You're stealing from the Levi. It's mamon she'ein lo tovin. They can't, the Kohen can't claim it because it doesn't belong to any one Kohen. So no one Kohen can claim it. He can take it, but he can't really, okay. Anyway, so if a Kohen does take it after it's shechted, once the animal is shechted, now those body parts are basically mamon gavoa, basically really belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give to the for us to give to the Kohen. So if a Kohen takes it, it's his. And if you or someone else now takes it from the Kohen, you're stealing from the Kohen and you owe him money because he was already zochebo. It's not hefker. It's not mamon gavoa. It's now he took it, and now you steal it. And if you take it from him, so then you have to. If he grabs it while the animal's still alive, he didn't do anything because it doesn't belong to him. The animal belongs to the Yisrael, and he didn't grab anything. It wasn't his. That's if he really takes the whole animal to be stealing. But okay, but there's no way to acquire it before. Okay, without stealing. Okay, let's go. Okay, interesting here. Do you say a bracha on this mitzvah? So we don't say a bracha. The Rashba says not to say a bracha, and that's the binag. There's a bit of a machlokas, but it seems to be the general halacha is clear. It's Kaf HaChaim, others. We do not say the bracha, and perhaps you can say it with thinking. Like anytime you have a savik, you could think HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, and then you could be able to say according to the Rambam, and probably no issues of a bracha levatala, because you didn't say anything. So, okay, and what is the reason not to say a bracha? Of course. So, we'll get to that. So then, when you give it over, so we don't say the bracha. So what's the reason the Rashba gives? Because it's maman gavoa. Because it's not yours. You're not really, per se, taking it from yourself and giving it to him. Everyone also points out there's no mitzvah of hafrasha. It's not like Trumas or Masros. There's a mitzvah to also do hafrasha. There's no mitzvah to do hafrasha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu already did the hafrasha. It's already been designated, and your mitzvah is to give it to him. But it's not like you're giving your possessions over. So that's also why. And one other reason also is could be because it's talui by somebody else. You have to have someone. Generally, we don't say brachos on mitzvahs that you need someone else to receive it. Who knows? You won't find them. They'll disappear. They won't take it. Whatever. That's just a general rule. So therefore, perhaps that it applies here as well. Also, the Kaf HaChaim says we don't say shechianu. It's also another. It is a question, but tzavik brachos lahaka. We don't say shechianu, but some say it's good to say for the Kohen and for the one who's giving for the very first time to say a shechianu on something else, because it's a bit of a question, and it's also it's a first timer for whoever's doing it, and so that's also with simcha and appropriate. Okay, but not necessary. Okay, let's keep reading. Gimel halachayim heimi perek shalechi. Now, when we say the lachayim, what does that mean? So it's plural. Really, it just means both sides. The halacha is it only means the mandible. It's only the bottom one. There is one opinion that's brought down somewhere. I don't remember that it includes the top one, the maxilla, which would mean basically you have to just cut it with an axe off the rest of the head. But anyway, that's not the halacha. It's only the mandible, and that's what we see here. It starts basically from the top of the mandible, the joint. Right? We all know where that is. TMJ. Ad pika shel gargeret. Shehi tabat ha-gedola. And so basically it extends all the way down. Well, ima lashon shebeneim, including the tongue in between. So you have the mandible all the way to the end of the mandible, the chin, all the way back. and all the way to the top, to the TMJ, and then also all the way down into the throat, to the top to where the trachea starts, right after the cricoid or the cartilage. So right after that is where the trachea, the windpipe begins, the tabat hagadola, and from there on and below, it's not included. It's only above the tabat hagadola. Okay, so that's where you sever it. You're allowed to give extra, but anyways, that's what you have to give. V'tzarech litno im ha'or v'im hatzemer shebaroshay kvasim v'hase'ar shebarosh tayashim she'eno rashoy lamogam. So here we see you have to, with the l'chaim at least. Okay, certainly it's a din by l'chaim. We're going to see you don't have to give the leather or the skin, the hide, with the zroa, with the arm. You're allowed to. You can keep it for yourself. That's the minhag lahalacha. There is a discussion in the poskim if Kaf Chaim says that's halacha, but there is a machlokas if you have to also give the skin, or the hair, with the zroa, but it seems not. But you do have to only, the drasha that says you have to is only by the jaw. So the jaw, because it could be the person wants it, the Kohen wants it, and so you don't have a right to not. Okay.
This would be the area above where it's shaved to make sure that the shkita is not covered.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's much lower. I mean, where you shecht is like pretty much in the middle of the neck, which is going to be way below, or it needs to be at least below the area that goes to him. Okay. Velo, okay, perush l'articha b'chamila v'arse'ar. Lamoga means you just remove the hair by heating it up. Velo lahavshit ha'or kodem shitinenu lakohen. So don't remove the or before you give it to the Kohen, because it could be the Kohen bedafka wants to do it himself, and he's makbid. And again, if the minhag is one way, then again these halachas may change a little bit if the Kohanim want you to and it's understood. So then obviously things change a little bit based on the minhag and what the Kohanim want. Okay, let's go to Dalit. Hakeva tzarich litna lakohen. Now the stomach that we give to the Kohen, it's im kol chelba panimi v'chitzon. So again, remember, this is the fourth stomach that's a little bit, has a bow shape to it, a little bit of an arch, a little bit of a half circle. And so therefore there's chelev above it and below it, and that goes to him as well. Whatever is attached, whatever is the, okay, kosher part. Ela im kein nagu kohanim laniach hachelev labalim. Unless the minhag is for the Kohanim to leave it for the owners. If that's the minhag and that's what's understood, then it's okay.
Is this kosher?
You know what? I don't remember. I don't know. Is this kosher chalev or not? It's not asr behana, it's asr to eat it. So this might be referring to, I don't remember right now. I don't know. Right. This could be the treif chalev. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, it might be treif. It's a karet, to eat it. But either way, you can use it. Okay, that's for sure. Okay, let's go on. Hey, afa pisha mutar lechol mibasar behema. Kodem shiyafrish hamatanos mitzvah lahafrisha miyad. Okay, now the meat. Again, we learned there's no mitzvah, the matanos, there's no mitzvah to do hafrasha. It's automatically theirs. And therefore, there's no isser deraisa or derabanan. You're mutter lechatchila allowed to eat from the animal right away. You can barbecue it on the spot before you even give it to the Kohanim. You don't have to give the matanos first. However, there is a mitzvah to quickly separate it and give it to them first. What's the mitzvah? It's basically just zrizim. The Mefarshim point out basically just zrizim magdimin the mitzvahs. You could?
But you already get the skin off.
No, the whole animal. You can eat. I'm talking about you get the whole other. Let's say you take the leg or the other arm. You can leave the skin on the right arm.
The
Although we learned that the only din really by skin just applies to the mandible. But you can flay the whole animal and eat the whole animal and leave the jaw with the skin on the jaw and then give it to him tomorrow. And you ate it tonight. Just keep it in the fridge.
You roasted that also?
You
With
can.
the skin and the hair on it? You could do that?
Well, you let him cook it. You don't have to cook it for him. There's no mitzvah to cook it, and let him cook it. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know how he wants to eat it. Okay. Okay. Also, there's issues of you're afraid you're going to forget or something will happen to it, so that's why it's also it's all part of Zrizim Magdimi. Okay, let's get to the next part. Vav. Afilu eino shochet letzarach achila ela leklavim o lerefua chayav b'matanos aval shachat umatzah treifa pater. So anytime you shecht it and it's a kshera, it doesn't matter what the purpose is. You still chayav to give the matanos to the Kohen since it's kosher. But if it's a treifa, then there's no mitzvah whatsoever to give it to him. So if it's all milchumra, then you do have to give. Actually, I would take it back. It's on all these suffix cases, so I think it's a discussion, and part of it is because it's a maman she'en laham tovim. So it could be if it's a suffix, you don't have to give. The Shach says, what does he say? Okay, thank you. Mashma poskim that filu suffix treifa is pater. Mitam damatze, because you can say to the Kohen, I wasn't going to give it to you, I was going to give it to someone else, and motzi mechavero ala varaya. Exactly. So then but it depends if it's just a chumrah or if it's a real suffix. If it's just a chumrah and really you know that it's a kshera, but you're being machmer, then I think you owe it to him. It's a midin. But if it's you hold it's a suffix, some cases you don't know, so it becomes a suffix. But it depends if it's really you know better, but it's mitzad chumrah, or if it's really mitzad suffix. Okay, I'll do a little bit more. So then zayin yitnem lekohen chaver. Best is to give it to a Kohen chaver. Now I forget where it's going to be brought down. It might only be by the Nosei Kelim. A halal or a halala doesn't get. They lose it. Just to get that out in the open, they lose it. But okay, yitnem lekohen chaver v'im ein sham chaver yitem lama'aretz. So it's better to give it to a Kohen Talmud Chacham. But if not, you 100% can give it to a Kohen Amaretz. Kohen Amaretz is one who doesn't necessarily daven all the time, doesn't necessarily keep all the mitzvos. He's basically doesn't learn so much. I would say most, I would not classify most from Jews who are Yoreh Shamayim as an Amaretz, even if they're not learning all day. So definitely not. So an Amaretz is really someone who's half from almost, from our standards. V'chein, im hachaver eino rotze lekablan, notnam la'am ha'aretz. And if a Kohen says, I don't need it, I'm not interested, of course you should give it to a Kohen am ha'aretz, because he's still a Kohen and he's still makayim the mitzvah 100%. And even if, here we're going to see, let me read one more halacha because it's interesting, it pertains to this one. Notnim otam lekohenes. Now this is interesting, and we'll get into this more, I think, tomorrow. A kohenet is also mekabel the matanos. That means even if she marries a Yisrael, afilu hu nesua Yisrael, v'hanot nam labarla Yisrael kiyem mitzvahs netina. And then, so I'm allowed to give not to a kohenet, or I'm allowed to give to her husband directly, who's 100% Yisrael, and it's not a problem. Because there's no Kedusha whatsoever at all. There's no Kedusha there's an Indian of Kavod for this Matnas Kahuna, we'll see, but there's no Indian of Kedusha whatsoever. So therefore, you're allowed to give it to the husband, and you get the full, everything's fine. The Kol Shekain Shabal Yisrael Pator Mina Matanas. So Kol Shekain, that if the Baal of Israel, he's regular Yisrael, you married a Kohanes, so she doesn't get Truma anymore, right? It's different halachas to Pidyon Aben, we'll see that all later. But when it comes to this halacha of matanas kehuna, she gets it and the husband gets it, and since his wife is a kohenes, when he shechs his own animal, he doesn't have to give it to someone else. He can just keep it. But be'etzim, really, he only is pater because of her. There's a special drasha. It's a gzeres akasuv. It's unusual. It's a real gzeres akasuv that kohenes is included, but he is not included. It's just as a byproduct of her, it's pater. And so therefore, even a kohenes who marries a Talmud Chacham, many say also it's better to give to a Talmud Chacham who's a Yisrael, but his wife's a Kohenet before a Kohen Am Haaretz. That's why I want to just include it, and we'll get into the shutaf business afterwards.
Good.